Durrani. And we do have... Wow!
Oh no!
You gotta be kidding
Oh
me.
my goodness!
I don't know about you, but I think I've seen this situation before. Maybe it's the fact that Jeffrey Finguy and Zachary Fitzwater have claimed the front row for the second week in a row. And of course, jokes aside, this is a completely different scenario, completely different track, completely different, situation, and hopefully, at least for them, a completely different outcome. But of course, we will know it for certain only after the checkered flag drops. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to round 26 of the 2025 PSRLA Cup Series. Welcome to the Virginia529 400 at Richmond Raceway, race 4 of the playoffs. Hello everybody, my name is Alex Vitale, and yeah, it happened again. The Durrani cars occupying the front row for the second week in a row, and I have no idea how that happened, but it did happen, and now you would expect, as I stated yesterday, that in the hours between the race and qualifying and the race, the entire organization, including the drivers, must have prayed to every single god of every single pantheon that this time the race will go in a different way. Because, quick recap of what happened at Watkins Glen: Fitzwater and Finguy were the class of the field. Then Fitzwater blew an engine, and Finguy was involved in a pit stop strategy that unfortunately did not go to plan, allowing Reggie Fogelman, who, despite everything, was still quick enough to actually still be at the right place at the right time, to claim victory instead. And of course, both drivers will try and essentially redeem that disaster, even though Finguy did finish in the top 10. But considering he was fighting for the win and looked like he was actually going to have it won, yeah, an 8th place finish has to be a disappointment, especially considering that, you know, the driver is in the standings, the playoff championship, and he's desperately trying to claim his second title in a row. Same thing for Fitzwater, although the championship in this case it's a little bit more figuratively than a real thing, but still, bragging rights are on the line for Fitzwater. So, considering this is last year, yeah, let's hope that both guys have, and they're hoping that this time Richmond is gonna be a little bit more a little more forgiving than Watkins Glen ever was. And speaking of, we are thinking qualifying. In the top 5, and you're seeing right there, that's a McDonald's Ford. That's Brendan Beal. He starts in 5th place, right after basically the big hitters of the basically putting his car ahead of a lot of big hitters, including playoff drivers. In fact, he managed to put himself, Reggie Fogelman, Nathan Stapleton, and Gary Movadell, who have been pretty much the top of the field for the entire year, while Beal was pretty much suffered a completely unknown season, at least compared definitely to his teammates in Justin Perez and Philip Torres. Remember, Torres is a playoff driver, and Perez had those 3 poles in a row. But still, and also Evans also had a really anonymous season. So I guess the rest of the drivers that are not Philip Torres and of course Justin Perez are taking their wins where they can, and starting in 5th on a top 5 starting position is definitely definitely counts as a victory in terms of Brendan Beal, for Brendan Beal. But for the rest, it's pretty much outside of that, it's pretty much usual suspects. So Avery Alford, Alexander Rose starting 3rd and 4th. Reggie Fogelman is starting in 6th. Tom Sloan is 7th. If Stapleton is 8th. And Gutierrez is 9th. And Gary Medell starts up in 10th. But yeah, we got 80 laps here at Richmond, and there's pretty much nothing else to say other than, guess what, folks? It's time for racing. The announcement has been given. These drivers will roll on any second now. And here they are. As for qualifying, the Durrani boys occupy the front row. First, Jeffrey Finguy. Second is Zachary Fitzwater. Then we got Avery Alford, Alexander Rowe, Brandon Beal, Reggie Fogelman, Tom Sloan, Nathan Stapleton, Anko Gutierrez, and Guillermo Vidal rounding out the top 10. 80 laps await the drivers. The top 2 are in search of redemption for what happened last week. Of course, plenty of other drivers have had, especially playoff drivers, have had bad qualifying sessions, so we will see what the race will be as well. As the pace car pulls into the pits, Finguy and Fitzwater will lead us to the green flag. The green flag is in the air. We're away at Richmond. And Finguy doesn't even last one lap in the lead because Avery Alford, pretty much right at the very beginning, puts himself in the lead, and looks like Finguy is going to lose another position to Alexander Rowe. Of course, both drivers are not playoff, so he doesn't have to worry about anything really. But still, Finguy is going to lose 2 places in 2 laps. So there goes Alexander Rowe for the lead. Side by side with Alford into 1 and 2, and looks like Rowe is going to take it. Rowe is actually going to take it. He's going to clear the 23 car as Fitzwater now attacks Fink and his teammate on the inside. And ooh, we got a big caution. We got a crash. We got a crash. You saw there. Troy Williams Jr. got involved. Troy Williams Jr. got involved. Damage for Blaine Keys. Big damage for Troy Williams Jr. And more contact with Charles Davenport. Damage for Kakala Sastrai, Brendan Ream, and Eric Monaco. All 2 drivers involved. So Chaos has already hit Richmond already. And wait. Okay, no, never mind. It looked like there was actually gonna there was another pile, but never mind. Everything is fine. So, of course, none of them are going to pit except the drivers that suffered damage. And not even 5 laps in, and we are already under caution. And with that, let's see the replay to see what caused the first caution of the race. Caution number 1, for looking at Troy Williams Jr. as him and Koshmar are coming into the backstretch. Koshmar gets too close to the 96 car and sends them into a spin, half spin. And pretty much everybody manages to avoid them except Blaine Keys, who pretty much smashes T-bones Williams Jr. straight away. But outside of that, pretty much everybody manages to slow down in time to avoid major damage. But heavy damage on that Rebel 33 car, so it's definitely going to turn into a modified. But, of course, a bit of a checkup. But amazingly enough, only 2 cars were involved in that wreck. Watching it in real time, Koshmar sends Williams into half spin, and Keys just smashes into the 96 car. And heavy damage, as we stated, to that 23 car. But looks like Keys will continue on, and so will Troy Williams Jr. despite the damage. But yeah, that's also another big moment with Charlie Davenport. But instead of those, looks like both drivers will continue the race like normal. And with that, see you on the track side. We're back live here at Richmond for the running of the Virginia529 400. Round 26 of the 2025 PSRLA Cup Series season. We're coming out of the first caution of the race. And the top 10 currently is Avery Alford, Jeffrey Finguy, Zachary Fitzwater, Brandon Beal, Tom Sloan, Anko Gutierrez, Reggie Fogelman, Philip Torres, Jonathan Carrison, and Nathan Stapleton. Of course, I don't think there are any DNFs, and there are no DNFs, but now Blaine Keys runs up the rear of the field as the drivers go side by side for the restart. We will restart on lap number 9. And back on the green we go right now. And looks like Alford is going to keep the lead unless Fitzwater has anything to say about it, and he does. Side by side between Fitzwater and Alford into turn 1. Into 3 and 4, sorry, but Alford is going to keep the position, as now Sloan looks like he's going to have a shot at Finguy. And the answer looks to be as Richard Fogelman dives on the inside of Brendan Beal. He's going to make the move. He's going to take the bit by surprise. As now good Harrison and Mimo is going to take advantage of that. As now Fitzwater is good through of Alford. As Harrison is on the inside of Fogelman. There goes Fitzwater for the lead, and Fitzwater pretty much just barges his way through the lead. They're side by side into 3 and 4, and Fitzwater is going to take the lead. He clears the 23 car. Zachary Fitzwater in the lead here at Richmond. Unless Alford has anything to say about it, or better yet, if Finguy has anything to say about it against Alford. And Alford does not, but Finguy does. And okay, we're going under caution again because it was slowing down. As Finguy tried attack on the inside of Alford, but Alford's going to defend. Alford, of course, is setting up a move, as you say there, into 1 and 2 against Fitzwater for the lead. There goes, but Fitzwater is going to defend. So Alford would have to wait at least maybe a couple of corners, as you saw there, Harrison battling with Tom Sloan. And Fitzwater is going to lead one more lap as Harrison deals with Sloan, and so does Movidel. Movidel, of course, manufacturer mate, but not teammate. Movidel goes through, and Finguy at the moment. Finguy's going to brush the wall, I think Finguy brushed the wall. That's going to let Harrison through. He definitely lost a lot of time to Alford, but Finguy managed to defend from Harrison. As there's Anderson Jr. battling with Movidel, but Movidel's going to defend the position. But the 20 car is glued to the rear of the 1 car. Reminder that if there was no championship, there was no playoffs, Movidel will still be the leader. Would be the leader of the championship by quite a margin, I would say. But we're still in the playoffs, so it doesn't really matter. There's a little bit of fun fact though. As at the top 4 is Fitzwater, Alford, Finguy, and Harrison. 2 playoff drivers, 2 non-playoff drivers. And it looks like Finguy is pulling it away from the 23 car. We'll have to see the next gap. And no, the gap is still there. If anything, Alford actually gained on the Australian driver. Meantime, there's Justin Perez blocking the way of Roberto Crown Jr. and Zane Davidson, who haven't had good qualifying performances. They're clawing their way back to the top 10. At least Crown is in 10th at the edge of the top 10. There goes Harrison on the inside of Finguy into 1 and 2, and Harrison is going to take 3rd place away from the championship leader. And maybe over there is going to have a taste of that as well. As Crown is side by side with Paris for 9th. But now the leading pair are pulling away from the rest of the group, of course, with all the constant fighting. Harrison and Finguy 3rd and 4th. There is side by side between Paris and Andrew Williams. So Crown has gone through, and so did Roger Fogelman. So the next playoff driver on the list is Andrew Williams. So and Zane Davidson, as Torres goes through Skylar Taylor, and a heavily damaged Trevor Williams Jr. and Doug Ward goes 3 wide with Bryce Egan, and I believe was Bruno Giacomo. He manages to move stick as Anderson goes through Movidel into 1 and 2, but Movidel has to back out. So Anderson Jr. up into 5th place. By the way, great race for Ali Anderson Jr. as now Fitzwater is pulling away once again from Avery Alford. It's in the gap. It hasn't changed, basically changed at all. But yeah, Fitzwater is now pulling away from Avery Alford. Of course, pit stop notwithstanding. So it's Fitzwater, Alford, Harrison, Finguy, Anderson, Movidel, Sloan, Koshmar, Crown, and Fulham in the top 10. As now Davidson goes through Andrew Williams, and he's going to take the place. So right now he is in 12th. Yes, in 12th because of course Fulham is in 9th. As you saw there, Ryan Little battling with Duncan Ward, and Bernie Giacomo taking advantage of that as well. And so Alexander Rowe goes through Angel Gutierrez. Maybe does Danny Johnson as well. But in the meantime, back up front. Back up front. Movedell and Anderson. Movedell is glued to the rear of Anderson, but still gonna find a place to overtake. This is for 5th place. This is for a top 5 spot. As so there is side by side between Torres and Andrew Williams. And Andrew Williams is going to lose the position from Torres, maybe from Skylar Taylor as well. And Skylar Taylor, another great result for Skylar Taylor, by the way. And Taylor goes through, so maybe Egan and Stapleton are going to have a taste of that. As the 58 car clears Andrew Williams, so looks like Bryce Egan and Nathan Stapleton. And Egan goes through, Stapleton decides to wait, but Williams is still there. Egan has not cleared him yet, as Ryan Little and Alexander Rowe get a little closer right there, but focus still focus on Egan and Andrew Williams. Now Egan should have it. He's going to clear Andrew Williams, and now Nathan Stapleton is going to have a taste of that. At least it looked like it. As Davidson is dealing with Justin Perez, and nice and easy, he makes it very easy. As situation up front still hasn't changed. Zachary Fitzwater still leads, although Alford has closed the gap once again. And now Movedell, and now Anderson has put a bit of a safety gap from Gary Movedell. A situation that's come itself done, at least in the top position, definitely not in the rear. Stapleton went through Andrew Williams, so does at least we'll try and Troy Williams Jr., his teammate, and of course Ryan Little right behind them. As Alexander Rowe is still battling with Angel Gutierrez, and Rowe defends from Gutierrez. Side by side between Duncan Ward and Danny Johnson. Johnson goes through the Scottish steamroller. And that would be for, I think that would be for 23rd. Plenty of battles in the rear of the field. As this goes Ryan Little on the inside of Andrew Williams. But settles behind the 82 car. Ryan Little not that far away from his teammate. As now Fitzwater has pulled the gap away from Alford once again. These guys are going very quick, and we are already out of the halfway point of the race. We only have one caution, as Troy Williams Jr. has cleared his teammate. Now looks like to do the same thing with Nathan Stapleton. This would put him into 14th. No, what I'm talking about. We put him in 16th. Yes, no. Hold on a second. I think that would put him in 16th. Let's see that. Let's see what Ticker says. And indeed it is. Actually, yeah. Andrew Williams back in is in 16th. As the situation has now changed. In fact, these guys are going so quick they're probably catching up to Blaine Keys, who has a modified car. That explains it. So halfway for almost 6 laps from the halfway point of the race, 7 laps actually from the halfway point of the race, and they're about to catch up the first lap car in the modified of Blaine Keys. Blaine Keys, as we stated, a very terrible 2025 season overall. Very bad season here, also a very bad season over the World Cup Series. He was coming as the runner-up from Ludovic Charette, and now Charette looks like he's going to challenge Duncan Ward and Daniel Pauls Jr. for her second World Cup Series title in a row. Of course, it all depends if the Groningen boys can pull out miracle after miracle for Duncan Ward and Daniel Paulus Jr. Basically, it's a Gradden Civil War if you don't include, if you include Duncan Ward, with just for Williams. But in the meantime, the situation had calmed itself down pretty much. As now Davidson goes through Fogelman and Torres looks to do the same, at least not now. As now there's a battle between Troy Williams Jr. and Nathan Stapleton. And Stapleton goes through, so does Alexander Rowe maybe. And the answer, I say, Gradden Civil War because Tim Velocity-Star, of course, is affiliated to Gradden. But in the meantime, let's focus back on the PSRLA Cup series, on the task at hand. As Alexander Rowe clears the 96 yard, gonna make it free wide. Ryan Little, Andrew Williams, and Troy Williams Jr. And they're gonna make it stick somehow. And it looks like Little is going to win this battle. They're gonna make it still free wide to the backstretch. They somehow make it stick. But Williams, the 82, looks to still taking in the lead. But Little is not giving in. And Little is still there. Little is not giving in. Of course, Andrew Williams being helped by his teammate. But through goes Little. Can he clear the 82 car for good? Maybe 2, 3, and 4. As now DiGiacomo looks to have a taste of Troy Williams Jr. and Little does clear the 82 car. As Alexander Rowe is trying to do the same with Nathan Stapleton. Nathan Stapleton is also dealing with Skylar Taylor. Skylar Taylor, who is now being Alexander Rowe's best friend right now. And we got another teammate battle between Troy Williams Jr. and Andrew Williams, as Gutierrez going on the side of DiGiacomo. Almost make it free wide, and the Mexican driver looks to take the play. He defends the place from DiGiacomo, and now looks like he's going to take it from Andrew Williams. But in the meantime, Zachary Fitzwater has pulled a major gap from Avery Alford, as all the drivers are now dealing with Blaine Keys, and Fitzwater is now dealing with Eric Monaco. Eric Monaco actually impeded him a little bit because the gap has shrunk down, but through goes the Aussie driver. There's the rest of the field. So right now, as we stated, is Zachary Fitzwater in the lead. Second is Avery Alford, who's dealing with the collapsed car of Eric Monaco. Then it's Jonathan Carrison, Jeffrey Finguy, Ali Anderson Jr., Garrett Movadell, Tom Sloan, Clara Koshmar, Roberto Brown Jr., and Zane Davidson. Pretty much the thing hasn't changed for virtually, basically ever since the caution happened, ever since the restart. As now Zachary Fitzwater goes through Genius D'Amelio. D'Amelio at risk of having to pre-qualify for the next race, which is going to be the return of Daytona. So we are returning Daytona next week, as Finguy is now dealing with Eric Monaco. Carrison has already went through, and we still have one caution to this race. And of course, these drivers will have to pit. Will still have to pit. Of course, except for all the cars that suffered damage. But right now, they don't look any worse for wear as Alpha goes through D'Amelio. And now Fitzwater has to deal with another car that has been struggled in qualifying for the races in Summit Oskin, in the hope that Oskin is gonna make it easier on him, because Alford is only half a second away, and looks like this really strong is not gonna make it any easier on the Aussie, because that allowed Alford to essentially claw back all that gap, and now Alfred's gonna go for the lead. The first time in a little while that Fitzwater has been challenged for the lead, side by side, and someone else looks like it's going to impede Alfred. It's gonna make it a little more tougher, but Now he's gonna go. He's gonna put his car. Now Oscar's gonna put his car in front of Fitzwater, and Alford is in the lead. And Fitzwater finally clears the 88 car, but a little bit too late because now Avery Alford leads here at Richmond. Alford leads at Richmond, and of course Fitzwater will have to do everything he can to get back into the lead, as both Jonathan Carrison and Jeffrey Finguy get rid of the Swedish driver with literally no opposition whatsoever. But now Alfred is gonna deal with the car of Charlie Davenport. But now we got a freeway battle for second place. Fitzwater, Carrison, and Finguy. And Finguy looks to be the one to start the madness, as he tried on the inside of Carrison, but Carrison is going to block the door. Into 3 and 4 is going to stay behind the 44 car for 3 and 4. As now Alford has caught up to Charlie Davenport. Lap 55 has begun. Lap 54 is in the books. These guys are going pretty fast, and of course the question is when they'll have to pit. And of course we're actually gonna get another caution, and indeed, speak of the devil, Jeffrey Finguy is the first one to officially get into the pits, and looks like he's the only one. So super undercut for the defending champion and championship leader, as everybody else goes through. Actually no, just the Perez also is in the pits. So does Avery Alford, race leader. So does Jack Haas, Jonathan Carrison as well, Samaraskan as well. In the meantime, Gutierrez, sure. Fitzwater continues for one more lap. Of course, he'll try and stretch this as much as he possibly can as he goes through Davenport, but of course he has to pit. And D'Amelio keeps going. So does Davidson and Perez. So Davidson should be the leader of the race, unless, actually no, according to the ticker, it's actually Allison Jr. But did Anderson pit? I'm pretty sure Anderson did not pit. In fact, he did not pit. But let's see what is going on as Davidson goes into the pits. As now the rest of the field should have done at least one stop. So we'll have to check in a little bit who is the actual factual race leader. Let's see what the ticker says, and it's not gonna be Jeffrey Finguy, at least not now. But I would say maybe Zane Davidson. I want to say, I don't know. Oh, maybe actually Zachary Fitzwater, but Zachary Fitzwater entered later. So we will see what the ticker says. And the ticker says still no update. It still says Elias Jr. is the leader. Elias Jr. and Zane Davidson are the leaders. Oh, no, Avery Alford is now okay. Now Avery Alford is back into the lead of the race. Alford, then is Carrison, and the Durrani cars. So we finally got ourselves the leader, and that is Avery Alford once again, as he comes with 20 laps to go here at Richmond. Of course, right now these two guys have plenty of clean air, unless Carrison starts slapping people, which looks to be exactly what he's doing right now with Bradley Ream, and of course Joshua Neely afterwards. And okay, that was a little bit of call for Jonathan. Almost sends Ream into spin by simply pushing his rear pretty badly. Almost felt like he was trying to actually cause a crash, but Alford also getting very close to the rear of Jack Haas, but fortunately manages to avoid any serious consequences, as now Alford goes through the 50 car, as Carrison has dealt with Bradley Ream, which now Jeffrey Finguy has to deal with. Lap number 63 is in the book. Lap number 64 has begun. Avery Alford now has got to deal with Troy Williams Jr. Of course, we will never get tired of saying this, but if only Avery Alford was a little bit more consistent in the early parts of the season, the guy would have definitely been a threat for the championship. As Alford goes through Troy Williams Jr. and of course Hunter Mendoza, last week's surprise driver, surprise performance, is up next. As now we got a battle for second place. Finally, Finguy as Claude got back from Carrison. Chris Carrison is going to defend like his life depends on it. Carrison is going to keep second place for this lap as well. Finguy is finding no real place to overtake. Actually, almost looked like he's going to actually did. He's going to force the issue. He's going to go on the inside of Carrison, but Carrison should have it. Should defend the position pretty easily. In fact, he did. As now the duo are catching up to the next lap car of Joshua Neely. As Alfred, you saw there, he's dealing with the lap car of William Ayers. As now, as Carrison and Finguy is still dealing with each other, and now they're catching up to Joshua Neely. As Alfred makes it 12 laps to go here at Richmond, and Carrison still cannot find. Carrison is still Maxwell or Finguy still cannot find a place to overtake Carrison, even if Carrison is being slowed down by Joshua Neely. 11 laps to go here at Richmond, as Alford is now aiming his sights on Brendan Beal, as Hunter Mendoza goes on the side of William Ayers. Now Carrison is going to lap Joshua Neely, and so does Jeffrey Finguy. 10 laps to go here at Richmond. Finguy deals with Neely. So of course, next target for both cars is Jack Haas. As Alford is getting also near towards Brendan Beal. Finguy, there goes Finguy, is going to try for a timid move on the inside of Carrison, but Carrison is going to defend. Actually, no, Finguy is going to force the issue once again, side by side into the backstretch. And the answer looks to be he finally clears Jeffrey Carrison, so Jeffrey Finguy up into second place, but I believe it's a little bit too late for challenge for the win, especially considering there's now got a bunch of lap cars to deal with. First Jack Haas, then William Ayers, then Angel Mendoza, and then Troy Williams Jr. It's also true that Alfred's got to deal with a bunch of lap cars himself, but Alfred has the thing of he's the leader, so not as much pressure. 3.3 seconds is the gap between Alfred and Finguy, as Finguy is dealing with William Ayers and Jack Haas. As now Alfred makes it 6 laps to go. As a scrap between Duncan Ward and Cameron Miller, Carson Miller. Sorry, Cameron Miller. Pretty sure is like an owner in the World Cup series, but pretty sure is like that. But in the meantime, different Finguy has cleared both Haas and Ayers. Now he's gonna deal with Mendoza, but I'm afraid that there's not enough time, as Alford clears both Beal and Duncan Ward. And now there's Carson Miller, and he makes short notice to Carson Miller. 4 laps to go, pretty easily. So right now the battle is off for third place between Zachary Fitzwater and Jonathan Carrison, as Fitzwater is now going to deal with a trio of Neely, Haas, and Ayers. Of course, also got to deal with Jonathan Carrison. And now looks like he's going to deal with 2 out of 3 of them. In fact, it does. And Carrison deals with Haas. Maybe Neely as well. 3 laps to go. And amazingly enough, we only had 1 caution period. 2 laps to go for Avery Alford. As for Jeffrey Finguy, it's not a win, but at least all the playoff drivers are behind him, so points gained. At least he'll take that. It's not win number 6, but as we stated, he can take the win. As we stated with Brendan Beal, he should take his win. He should take his wins where he can. As Avery Alford crosses the line, white flag, 1 lap to go here for Avery Alford, which is now half a lap. As now Alford clears Kalasastrai, and Avery Alford is going to win at Richmond. And Jeffrey Finguy is going to finish in 2nd place. Not a 6th win, but what that's the purpose is more points gained on the rest of the field, especially the rest of the playoff drivers. 3rd will be Zachary Fitzwater, so definitely a much more kinder weekend here in Richmond than it was at Watkins Glen. Jennifer Karras is in 4th, Allison Jr. Top 5 spot for Anderson Jr. Then is Alexander Rowe, Roberto Cram Jr., Philip Torres, Gutierrez, Nathan Stapleton, and Zane Davidson in the top 10. And since we mentioned him, Angel Gutierrez is down in 22nd place. But confirmation that Alfred has indeed won the race, and 24 cars on the lead lap, no DNFs. From 25th to 39th, all a lap down, while Blaine Keys, unfortunately, he goes 2 laps down. And of course, the rest of the playoff drivers, Jeffrey Finguy is of course in 1st, Carrison is in 2nd, Alexander then is Rowe and Crown in 3rd, Torres in 4th, Stapleton in 5th, Davidson in 6th, Koshmar in 11th, Koshmar is 7th, then we got Andrew Williams, Movedel, Fogelman, Egan. Then we got Troy Williams Jr. And I believe he is the worst of the playoff drivers. Yeah, he is. Troy Williams Jr. is indeed the worst of the playoff drivers. But yeah, in all honesty, I was not expecting this race to be as clean as it was. I mean, we got that 1 caution, and I generally thought, oh, this thing is going to be like a wreckfest, isn't it? But no. Only 1 caution, and everybody just drove cleanly. And yeah, the battle, we didn't get any battles for the win, but we got plenty of battles in the rear of the field, including a decent battle for 2nd place. But yeah, this race was definitely surprising. At least for me, because again, I was expecting a lot of wrecks. I'm pretty sure last year we had a lot of wrecks at Richmond. So I guess this year the drivers did chill out. They know what we're going for. They know what they had, what was coming. When they knew how to drive this track a little bit more cleanly. So yeah, only 1 caution. Other track I was expecting a lot more. So that's really surprising. But yeah. Of course, as we stated, Durrani wanted a much more nicer weekend than Watkins Glen, and they got it. Of course, for Finguy is not the win, nor the 1-2 that probably what I wanted, but still, Finguy has gained more points on the playoff drive, on the rest of the playoff grid. So, as I stated for Brendan Beal, he should take his wins where he can. The same thing cannot be said for Fitzwater, who unfortunately now sees his gap from Alford for winners of the Best of the Rest Championship now increase. But yeah, this was an interesting race. So let's see how things change in the standings after this race. I'm Rebecca Clive here at Richmond Raceway for the Virginia529 400 that has just finished. Here's another thing that I should be thankful that we had only 1 caution. I didn't have to say that race name over and over again. As for the standings, as we stated, Jeffrey Finguy with 2nd place has increased the gap from Nathan Stapleton. Now he is 18 points clear of the other Allen Motorsports driver. 3rd is Jonathan Carrison, who is now in 3rd with, spoilers, no wins to his name. but it's 24 points behind Jeffrey Finguy. Zane Davidson is now up to 4th. Andrew Williams is now up to 5th. Bryce Egan drops down to 6th. Movidell is in 7th. Crown is in 8th. Koshmar is now in 9th. Jumps up two places. Himself, another driver without a win. Richie Fogelman drops down to 10th. Torres is now in 11th. Also, no wins to his name. And True Williams Jr. wraps up the 12 playoff drivers, also with no wins whatsoever. And now the gap between Avery Alford and Zachary Fitzwater is now 8 points in the Best of the Rest Championship. And yeah, pretty much a very, very calm race, because there weren't that many changes in the standings, both in the playoff and the Best of the Rest. In fact, just to tell you, the biggest winner in terms of jumps are the biggest jumpers are Laura Koshmar and Justin Perez with 2 positions, and the biggest losers are Troy Williams Jr., Bryce Egan, and Blaine Keys, all with 2 positions lost. So everybody else pretty much remained the same. So a very, very shall we say clean situation, even in the championship standings. But I bet this will not be a thing, because, as we stated, next race is the return to Daytona. And if Daytona was chaotic at the beginning of the year, only God knows what's going to happen now that we're coming back. Well, now the championship will look now with a much more defined pecking order. But of course we'll get there once we get there. But yeah, there's pretty much nothing else to be said other than this has been a special edition of the 2025 PSRLA Cup Series 45th Network. I'm Alex Vitale, and see you next week for round 27 of the championship, race 5 of the playoffs at Daytona International Speedway. So long, everybody, from Richmond. Congratulations again to Avery Alford.